Welcome to this week's Arnie Ball Show. Tonight we're going to preview the MIVA Conference tournament that is playing this weekend at Ohio State. Our special guest is Justin Luna. And when we come back, we're going to look at last week's exciting matches against Loyola and Lewis. So please stay with us.
If they want to get me, I'm going to be ready to get them.
They just shoot. They don't care who gets in the way.
I want to be respected. This gets me respect, know what I'm saying?
I'm afraid to walk to school, okay?
Yeah, I might die. Everybody dies.
Kids shooting, kids getting shot. They're all victims of gun violence. The killing won't stop unless you help stop it. Call 1-800-WE-PREVENT for free information. Not one more lost life. Not one more grieving family. Not one more.
I don't want to die.
People think because I don't talk about politics, I don't care about it. I let my vote talk for me.
I've seen my candidates win. I've seen them lose. I vote, I say my piece.
I listen to a lot of big mouths every day. You know what? My vote speaks louder.
I can't always speak my mind at work, right? But in the voting booth, I can say anything I want.
Listen, that's what my vote says. That's pretty satisfying.
On Election Day, vote for your candidate, vote for your country, but most of all, vote for yourself.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Arnie, last week, as you remember, on the show, we said, if nothing else happens the rest of the season, we've got to repay Loyola. And we did that. Remember we said that?
In staying with tradition, I want to know where Coach Johnson's at.
Coach Johnson. We're talking about Coach Dennis Johnson, who retired from coaching several years ago, probably due to age, because he was getting up there in years. And he was supposed to be our guest on the show tonight, and he did not come in. He's probably taking a nap at this very moment, so we're just going to have to go on without him. But we have Justin Luna, who had a nice weekend, and so we'll have a chance to talk to him, and I'm sure people are much more interested in hearing from Justin than in hearing from Denny. Well, so back to Loyola.
I'm certainly don't mean to be disrespectful to Justin, and I'm really glad that he's here, and certainly his contribution this weekend was very significant. However, I'm really disappointed that Coach Johnson decided to bail out on us, and probably the next time we end up at our local establishment, it'll be his turn. So I just want to go on record as saying that.
I've known him for 87 years, and it has never been his turn.
Well, we're going to hold him to it this time.
We're going to hold him to it.
For stiffing us here. Once again, no offense meant to Justin, but I just had to make those comments in staying with tradition with the show. What was the question you asked in the beginning?
Well, the tradition of the show is that you never answer my first question because it's always a question about something you screwed up the weekend before. Now, I started off this time just to throw a curve at you, talking about a match we won and we played very well in. You had a good coaching job, and you still changed the subject.
Loyola, is that what you asked
Loyola,
about?
that's Loyola,
right. Is that Loyola of Chicago?
Loyola of Chicago, remember that?
Chicago. I'd much rather play Loyola of California. Yeah, you know, the weather's much nicer. Yeah, I better be careful here. We're on television. I'll get in trouble. That was a great win, wasn't it, huh?
It's a great win, especially coming back in Game 3 after we lost the lead late in that game, and we're receiving game point, and we still won Game 3 to make a 3-0 sweep.
Yeah, I believe Game 3 there were 4 rotations where we were behind 15-14, 14-13.
15-14.
Yeah, and we held them off and was able to side out. You know, and that's kind of been a real jinx of ours all year is not being able to side out in those particular situations. We did that and came back and won the match 17-15. Of course, the first 2 games we won rather handily and played very well. I thought we served well. Kids just played with a lot of enthusiasm, a lot of determination, played together. It was a great match to win.
It was our best serving match of the year. You know, I keep the serving statistics over the course of the year, and it was our very best match of the year. In fact, our best serving match in several years. We we had 3 or 4 guys who served above 2.0, which is very, very good. Chris Farmer, who's been one of our most erratic servers of the year, was just under that at 1.92, I think.
Well, I can certainly tell you that the reason for that is that I've spent a lot of time with Chris the last week and a half. I'm going to take personal credit for Chris's serving, because he and I have been spending some time at it. Actually, we have spent some time at it, but I'm not sure it has anything to do with me. It has all to do with Chris.
Well, Chris has performed very well. Once you moved Mike back to the setter, that brought Chris in the middle, and also Ryan now had to adjust to a 6-7 setter from a 6-0 setter. And so it's amazing that our middles have hit as effectively as they had over the last 2 weeks, given that change.
You know, and all weekend, the middles in particular, Ryan had a great match against Loyola and another great match against Lewis on Saturday night, and Chris has been very effective. And Chris's really forte has been blocking, maybe more so than offense. You know, we have him 2 away, so his offensive presence doesn't need to be quite as significant as Ryan's. But Chris really presses and blocks the angle ball in particular, gets back inside. And when Chris blocks balls get blocked to the floor, and he's done really a good job with that.
One of the things that we had some trouble with this weekend, again, was passing, especially on Saturday night in that first game. And we're going to talk to Justin about that when he comes on, because he was one of the players you put in to settle down our passing. But once again, our passing seems to break down just at certain points, and we have trouble getting out of that.
Well, as you know, passing is the beginning of the key to the whole success of your team. And when passing breaks down, obviously you get out of system, and our left side attackers aren't the biggest in the country. We certainly hit the ball very hard, but we have a tendency to pull the ball down, and when you have to go out there, when you don't pass the ball and you have to kick the ball high left side, you have to become real creative as a hitter. And our passing did break down. You know, we were behind 10-1 in the first game.
11-1, I think.
And I ended up taking Brad out and Ricky out both, and putting Dave Zub and Justin in, and we came back to 13-10, and unfortunately made 2 unforced hitting errors at the end to give them 14 and 15. Would have been really great if we could have come back and won that game. Because you know, making 2 substitutions like that, 2 guys who come in cold off the bench, that's very difficult to do, and especially being put in that position. You know, last week we talked about Brian Harris coming in and serving tough and digging balls, and that's certainly a difficult thing to do, especially the serve part. But when you're on the receiving end of the serve, and all of a sudden the spotlight is on you, and it's so critical, as we've talked about all year.
And you know, as soon as you come in as a new passer, that you're the target. Automatically, you're the target.
Yeah, you have a big bullseye right on your chest,
That's right.
And everybody's going to serve the ball. And boy, Dave and Justin came in and both did really a good job and almost turned that game around for us.
Volleyball is such a game of momentum and swings in momentum. And after going down 11-1, and Justin and Dave coming in and getting us back in that game, really set the stage for our jumping out in Game 2 and winning Games 2 and 3 like we did.
Well, there's no doubt about that. We put Brad and Ricky back in after they had come out and had a chance to regroup themselves and, you know, watch the game a little bit and just get themselves refocused. Put those guys back in, and, you know, we passed the ball extremely well in Games 2 and 3, and I think we ended up beating Lewis 4 and 5 or 4 and 6, something of that nature. I mean, we just totally controlled the match, and it all goes back. Actually, we've just talked about this, back to serving and passing, and we served real well in those two games
right.
as well. But our passing was good. We were hitting. I think we hit over 400% for the second game. We hit over 500 for the third game as a team. I mean, that's pretty unreal for us. So when that happens, your passing has to be good, and our middles were very effective.
I think after Game 3, we had been hitting 400, 40%, which is very, very good, and we had outblocked them, I believe, 11-4. And as long as we could have maintained the advantage in either of those, not even both necessarily, but in either of those, we would have won the fourth game and won the match.
Well, I know you had, after Game 3, made a comment to somebody about our our offensive success, and made the comment right directly to them that if our passing holds up and our serving holds up, we'll win this match. And, you know, unfortunately, that didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. But you know what? In spite of the fact that we ended up losing that match, the fans, I don't think, have been in a match like that all year, and certainly they were excited about that, and makes many of them look forward to this weekend at the MIB.
Well, we had a great crowd, you know, and there were a lot of great rallies. It was a fun match to be part of.
Fun match, hard played. When we come back, Justin Luna will be my guest, so please stay with us.
Math, four-letter word, right? Hey, you don't need that.
Why design the world's newest chips?
When you could be flipping the world's oldest burgers. Hey, wait a minute. minute. This is math. Geometry, algebra.
No pocket protectors here.
But you're cruising without math. Yeah, right. Take a good look.
That's math staring back at you.
It's not a problem, man. It's an answer. Call NACME. We'll tell you what you need to do.
Where's dinner?
Well, I thought you'd be home a couple of hours ago, and I put everything away. So
What is this? Pizza?
You had just called me. I would have known what.
Dinner ready is pizza.
Honey, please don't be so loud. Please don't. Let go of me!
Get in the kitchen!
No!
Do you want to see what hurts? That's what hurts! That's what hurts!
Oh, please! I can't. Please.
For information, call 1-800-END-ABUSE.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Joining me during this segment is Justin Luna, outside hitter, swing hitter, as we call it at IPFW. And we're going to talk a little bit with Justin about this last weekend. But before we do that, I got to know, being a military history fan, Justin, you've grown up right next to one of the great Civil War battlefields of, as you Confederates would say, Stones River.
Stones River,
And
yes.
as we would say, Murfreesboro.
Yeah, the Battle of Murfreesboro, or Battle of Stones River. But yeah, it's only about 5 minutes from my house. Got the cemetery and the little driving tour. You can stop and walk back, see all the little. They got cannons back there and all types of stuff. So
And much of the battlefield is preserved as a military park, isn't it?
Yes, it is. National park. So.
When you were growing, you lived in Murfreesboro all your life, didn't you? Pretty much, or around there.
Yeah, around there. Yes.
As you were in high school and so forth, what kind of volleyball experiences did you have, Justin?
There wasn't anybody my age in Tennessee who played volleyball, really. I grew up with my dad and his friends playing, so I mainly played with my dad and his friends. Just grew up around older folks playing.
How did you find out about IPFW?
Brad Purdue, who is a junior this year, he was here when I was playing with Team Soda, which is up in Minnesota, a club team that he played with, and kind of heard about it through that. And since he was here, I figured I'd take a shot.
And you're in your, what, second year now?
Second year. Sophomore, yeah.
And you're a swing hitter, which means, as we talked with Arnie earlier on the show, sometimes you have to come off the bench when we're really struggling passing. And as we talked about, there's a big bullseye painted on the front of your chest because the other team automatically picks the new passer as the target. And that's exactly what happened to you Saturday night.
Yeah, that's what happened, all right.
And you passed a couple, as we would say in volleyball, you passed nails, didn't you?
Passed nails. I came in, passed pretty good. We almost came back in that game, but did all right. Came in off the bench, tried to change the momentum a little bit, so maybe help the team out a little bit.
You've really played in 3 positions for the team this year. You are primarily a swing hitter, but you've been used some at the opposite, which means you're never in the front row with the setter, and you hit more out of the back row in that kind of position. Mm-hmm. And one night you even got to set for us, didn't you?
Yeah, yep. I got to set at Rutgers when we played up there, and a little bit against Long Beach State in the spring fling when Jorge got hurt in the middle of that game. Came in and set a little bit, tried to at least. So.
What's your favorite position? All else being equal, if you could just pick wherever you wanted to play, where would you like to play?
I like swinging, passing and swinging, hitting outside, but I like setting too. It's fun every now and then, but in practice I have a good time setting. I don't know about games yet, though. So.
Do you feel the pressure more?
Yeah, there is a little bit more pressure. So.
Talk a little bit about the difference in practice versus the game. In terms of the pressure, Arnie likes to run practices that even the drills are competition-oriented, but there's a lot of scrimmaging and a lot of points being scored, so there's a lot of pressure on even during practice. But explain how that is different from going out and playing in a game.
Well, in practice, like you said, it is geared to be like a game so that you'll try to have that experience, but there's really nothing you can do to get ready for, like being out. We played in the Coliseum in that big arena. I stand out there in front of, what do we have, 2,500 fans, and it's just a different atmosphere. Hear everybody yelling and the crowd, and got all your teammates there. It's just a lot different. You have to deal with a lot more circumstances. So.
Well, you came here after the years that we were national competitors, and we filled our gym on many occasions, but also we played at the Coliseum in the NCAA finals, and there was probably 7,000 to 8,000 fans there those nights. And so you may get an opportunity to do that again if things go well, right?
Hopefully, yeah. Hopefully we can have those kinds of crowds again. I'd like to see that before I leave, at least. Yeah, I miss the Lloyd Ball era with all those crowds, but I'd like to see it get back to that level.
And I think we can. Hopefully before the season's over on this show, we can talk a little bit about recruiting now that the official signing period is on us. Let's get back to passing. It seems like every week Arnie and I get down to the point of, well, it all comes down to passing and serving, which are the two most basic fundamental techniques or skills of a volleyball player. If you're in 5th grade playing on a grade school team, or whether you're playing at the NCAA level like we are. And as a passer and someone who passed very successfully Saturday night, tell us a little bit about the mental preparation for passing first, and then we'll talk a little bit about the physical skill itself.
Well, mentally you have to stay focused the entire time. If you lose your concentration even for a second, if you pass good one time, make a hitting error, for example, you go back and you're still thinking about that hitting error, you're going to shank the next pass. You've got to just forget everything that happened pretty much the plays before and concentrate on the next play, the next pass, the next serve. Just focus. And
the passer's in on every play, so you have to let the error from 10 seconds ago be 10 years in the past, right? Because the most important pass you're ever going to make is which one?
The next one.
The very next one, right? And then you have to, after you've passed, you have to then move to your hitting position, which could be left or it could even be right. You might be moving that way.
Yeah, we swing either way, different responsibilities after we pass, so.
Well, explain a little bit about the physical technique of passing. For instance, the target is the setter, and especially if you have a tall setter, you want to pass it fairly high so that he can get above the net to set the ball, right?
Yes, you want to pass it high. Like with Jorge, you said earlier, he's only 6 foot, but with Mike, we're having a 6'7" setter. So it's nice you can pass the ball high, it goes up and set it high. It's just a higher, play from a higher level that way. Just want to face your target and pass it high, get squared up, pass it high up to the net.
And the most important part of the body for a passer is what?
The
feet. The feet, exactly. If the passer doesn't get in position, there's nothing he can do to make that pass come out well, can he?
That's true, that's true.
So you need someone who is fairly quick, fairly agile, and you have to distribute your weight in a certain way in order to be able to move quickly, right?
Sometimes you get into some pretty odd body positions when you're trying to pass and it comes up on you, but you always want to have your feet on the ground and be stable.
So. And if you've got a big jump server on the other side of the net, you don't want to dig in your heels because you're still going to have to move quickly, right?
That's true, yes.
Now, this is Justin Luna, swing hitter and passer on the Mastodon team. When we come back, Arnie will be back, and we'll talk a little bit about the MIVA tournament, which is being played this weekend. So please stay with us.
Team spirit is alive and well at IPFW. That's because IPFW has established itself as an athletic power, not only regionally, but nationally. With 11 major sports, IPFW offers talented student athletes great opportunities. Success and support of IPFW athletics comes solely from the fans, students, faculty, alumni, and the prestigious Royal Dons Club. The Royal Dons Athletic Club has over 500 members who financially support IPFW athletics, enabling the university to provide scholarships to deserving athletes. Members will receive one or all of the following: season passes to all sporting events, special seating, hospitality room, plus Royal Dons apparel and gifts. Be a part of the winning tradition. Join the Royal Dons Club. We need your support. Call IPFW Athletics. Get into the team spirit.
Check it out!
The campus has it all.
Learn it, or work it, or play it, just do it. It's a cool place. Call now! Go to work, go to school, go ahead.
Welcome back to the Arnie Ball Show. Arnie, Justin certainly did quite a job Saturday coming in and passing under some trying situations, and he also hit well, didn't he?
Justin's probably the purest technical passer we have on the team. And Ohio State's his team to really light up against offensively. He's had some very good offensive matches as well. Justin is a real example of what you and he were talking about in regards to when he miscues a couple, he lets it bother him, and then he makes a couple more, and so then he becomes real static. He becomes real stiff, and instead of allowing his physical abilities, I mean, he jumps like a kangaroo, so and he runs real well, all that kind of stuff. But once he learns to overcome that, he could be as good a passer as we've ever had here, because technically he's very good.
You think he can be as good as Raul Papaleo?
It'll be hard to be as good as Raul. Raul is the best that we probably will ever see here, and that's a mouthful, but I don't know how many of the fans, of course you and I know that Raul's on the AVP Tour and just finished 7th last weekend in one of those big tournaments down in Florida, and you've got to be pretty good at passing the ball to do that.
Yeah, he plays, in beach you're playing pretty much, he's back row handling the first ball almost all the time.
I haven't seen him and his partner play. I know he's playing with a young man from Cuba, and but I'm assuming Raul's touching a lot of first balls. And, and when Raul was here, he was just picture perfect. And Justin does some of those kind of things. Whether he'll ever be quite that good or not, I don't know.
When you talked about when our passing breaks down, we have to rely on the left side hitter, and both of our left side hitters are average height or below. But then you take Ricky and Brad out and put Justin and Javi in or somebody, and you've headed in the wrong direction in terms of the height.
Well, it gets a little shorter. Both those guys have tremendous jumps. You know, we know Javi's is above 40, and I'm guessing, we've not really measured Justin's, but his has got to be above, in the middle 30s or higher. But it's still difficult because of their size to go against the 6'8", 6'9" blockers that you end up going against.
We're going to have another chance to see Lewis. In fact, we're taping this show before we leave for the MIVA tournament, and we're playing Lewis on Thursday at 5 o'clock. And hopefully we'll have a repeat of the match Saturday night insofar as that we play very hard and we stay in the rallies and we don't let ourselves get too far in a hole. And if we're going to get into a hole, we don't want to do it in rally scoring in Game 5 when we don't have a chance to dig ourselves out.
Well, this may be one of the very first few opportunities that you and I have to watch this show having been on the road. Because if we lose to Lewis, you and I will be back home in time to watch this sucker. And so we hope that's not the case, but it certainly could be. You know, we are playing Lewis. We'll be playing them Thursday at 5 o'clock Ohio time, 4 o'clock our time. And I don't know whether that's an advantage or disadvantage for us, whether they're going over early or not. I talked to Dave Doiser, last weekend, and they traditionally do not play well on the road. And they didn't play very well in games 2 and 3. They were really fortunate to get out here beating us last weekend. And so if our kids can can serve well, and we know they have a target, because we certainly took advantage of that last weekend, and we can figure out a way to control their middles a little bit more, well, we have a real legitimate opportunity of beating those guys.
The MIVA conference standings this year were really unusual in that, if I have this figured out correctly, there were 3 teams tied for first, Ball State, Lewis, and Ohio State, and then 3 teams tied for fourth, us, Loyola, and Wisconsin, Milwaukee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And so they used some kind of tie-breaking mechanism to seed the teams for the tournament.
Well, what they do is end up taking the teams that are tied and taking the matches that those teams played against one another and deciding a win-loss percentage in games. So Ball State comes out first, Ohio State second, and Lewis third. And the same thing is true of them with the three teams that we're tied, or two teams we're tied with. And I don't even know whether Loyola was fourth or fifth, but yes, I do too. Milwaukee was fourth, Loyola was fifth, and we ended up sixth. I think we ended up sixth primarily because the 5-game match that we ended up beating Wisconsin here at home, but it went 5 games. If we had beat them in 3, we probably would end up fourth or fifth.
Yeah. And then it comes down to a seeding so that we're in a bracket with playing Lewis first, and in our bracket in the other match is Ohio State. So Ball State got a pretty good draw out of that since they're up there away from both Ohio State and Lewis.
Ball State has a real good draw, and they're #1 seed. That's kind of dangerous. That's not been a good position to be in this conference tournament.
We've been there a couple of times and not come out on top.
94, we were there and lost. I mean, that's not a good place to be. Ball State does have an easier draw as far as the bracket's concerned, and it's much more difficult for us. But as I told the kids, you got to play those people sooner or later.
Yep.
So go and play 3 great matches and go to UCLA.
So there's really 5 matches left in the season. For an MIVA team, if they are to go all the way to the finals, there's 5 matches left, 3 in the conference and then 2 at the NCAA finals.
Well, possibly 2. You know, they canceled or did away with the 3rd-place match at the NCAA. So,
which is a good move.
Yeah.
I hated playing in that thing.
Well, I think we're all in agreement with that, and they have eliminated that. So if you were to lose in the NCAA, then of course you wouldn't play on the Saturday.
So there'll be 2 teams that'll play 5 more times, basically, right?
That's correct. 2 teams in the country.
Yep.
They'll play 5 more times, and out west, they're getting ready to have their tournament. I believe it's in Hawaii this year. I don't know where the one is out east. Maybe it's at Penn State, but I'm not sure about that.
So the 3 conference tournament winners all receive automatic bids to the NCAA finals, and then the NCAA committee selects 1 additional team to go in and make it a 4-team tournament, correct?
That's correct, and I would guess, again, this year it would come from the West. It'd be really difficult for it not to come from the West. As we look at the competition throughout the year, no one out here, Lewis beat Santa Barbara. But other than that, no one's really beaten anybody from our part of the country, even in the East, has beaten anybody out West. And certainly at this point, UCLA, Santa Barbara, and Hawaii and Long Beach are probably the top.
Long Beach is playing very well.
They have, but they just lost last week, and Santa Barbara has beaten UCLA twice. So it might be real difficult to pick that at-large team.
Yeah, unless someone upsets Hawaii in the conference tournament, then it becomes easy.
And then but the tournament happens to be in Hawaii, and they'll have 10,000 plus fans there. That'll be a real difficult task, I would think.
We want to mention one thing. I know we're under a minute here in terms of time, but we want to mention that tickets now are on sale for the USA Volleyball match June 14 and 15 at the Coliseum. They're available at the Coliseum box office or any Ticketmaster outlet, and you can buy tickets for either or both nights, and we expect to sell out, so you might not want to wait too long to get those tickets. So until next week, for Arnie Ball, this is Mark Franke saying so long.